Hi, my name is Dr. Sikorsky, and I am a licensed psychologist. I have been approached by numerous patients, family, and friends about different strategies that can be useful in protecting our mental health during the coronavirus. Ultimately, as we look at research and all of that with the coronavirus, one thing has become abundantly clear is that stress and fear are often the larger contagions that are going around and spreading across the United States and the globe. So the plan thus far has been to navigate and contain the spread of the virus by flattening the curve. You've heard this, I'm sure, on Facebook, the news, and all of that. If you look at the guy in the green, you'll hear people talking about, oh, it's just like the cold and flu, and that is true to a point. However, there is a fallacy called the personal fable in which we feel like we are invincible or immune to bad things happening, which makes people, touch microphones after a basketball game and find out they're diagnosed with the coronavirus or just taking unnecessary risks. The issue with the woman in the orange is that we often feel like we have to do more than what is expected than just the recommendations. A lot of the behaviors that you're seeing right now is due to stress, anxiety, and fear. So when we think about stress, it's often just the definition of when we feel like our ability to do things is below that which is expected. These feelings and beliefs can be passed on to others, much like the common cold or the coronavirus. Where we tend to see this right now is in the media with people shopping. People see other people buying toilet paper and they have to buy toilet paper. They see people buying water and they need to buy water. But this is often heavily mitigated by the amount of news coverage and sources of information people have. But we're at a point even before the coronavirus where the average high school student had the same level of stress and anxiety than a person who was hospitalized in the early 1950s. So as I said a few minutes ago, the coronavirus in media coverage has surpassed just about every major catastrophe known to man, as it has come with these disabilities. The issue is that if we don't have a sense of control in dealing with this, our anxiety tends to increase and we get into the horde TP zone where people feel like if it's as bad as everyone's saying, then I absolutely have to prepare for like the apocalypse. They told me to wash my hands, but that can't be enough. I actually need to hoard TP and buy a bunch of water. And though you may feel safer doing this, it's often not going to do much to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. But there are some things that we can do to do this. And one of the issues that we have is we feel like we can work really hard to control things that are outside of our control. We're told that there is a virus going around, that it's contagious, and the advice that we're given is to distance ourselves and wash our hands. People have a hard time accepting that that is the best they can do. So again, people get hypervigilant. They start obsessively engaging in social media and the news. And we just have this strong desire to make the present moment different than what it actually is. So we start getting negative towards ourselves when we're told that school is canceled and we have to figure out childcare, or that trip we planned isn't going to happen, or that even if we buy all the toilet paper, wash our hands, and bathe in alcohol, we're still at risk for contracting the virus. And oftentimes when we feel like we don't have control, we start to judge ourselves for failing to reach our goals, for not being able to do the things that we want to do. March Madness turned into March Sadness. A lot of people are disappointed with that, and it just kind of pulls us into our head and out of our lives. So I want to go through a couple different strategies of things that we can try. With all of the cancellations that have been going on, there is an abundance of free time. So take an hour each day. And I'll go through each of these points here individually. But 30 minutes of exercise a day. We'll talk about those benefits. 15 minutes of being present with those around you. 10 minutes of meditation, prayer, or reflection, and 5 minutes of gratitude. If we look at exercise right now, one of the best things that you can do is 30 minutes of exercise each day. And this doesn't have to be marathon running. It doesn't have to be sprinting. It's about 60 to 70% maximum heart rate for 30 minutes. It improves concentration. It raises a protein in the brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or protein. It's like Miracle-Gro for the brain. And if you look to the left there, 30 minutes of exercise for treating mild to moderate depression is more effective than taking a mild antidepressant. That is not to say that if you are currently taking a mild antidepressant, you should quit and start running, but you should augment what you're doing with a little bit of exercise. Even a brisk walk outside. You might tell yourself, they told me to stay away from others. Well, in that case, if someone's walking too close for you, now you have the opportunity to take up jogging. So there's a wonderful quote by a researcher named John Rady, where he just talks about exercise is like taking a little bit of Prozac and Ritalin every day. It lifts the mood, it increases our concentration. Anxiety tends to be a physical manifestation of feelings in the body, and exercise can help release some of that stress. So 15 minutes of being present. At this time right now, when people are home, and just the culture of American society right now, we have a hard time being present with people. We kind of leave people literally up to their own devices. So this quote here, do you mind if I strap my cell phone to my forehead so I can pretend you're looking at me when I talk? The big thing here is 2 hours of social media usage a day is correlated with a 60% increase in clinical depression. It is really, really common to want to be well informed, but that obsession with social media is really detrimental to mental health. This is a great time to practice being present with people. 15 minutes of intentional presence where there's no phones, no TV, no other distractions, but really just being present with someone is worth more than 3 hours of divided or split attention. This is a great opportunity to reestablish, dinner time as a family, or reaching out with others, doing puzzles, finding time to unplug and get connected to the people around us instead of engaging in that social media and comparing our misery to the tragedies of everybody else. So again, be present. One of the ideas, the great science to live happy is to live in the present. If we're worried about the past, that tends to be like depression. If we're worried about the future, that's anxiety. When we are present in the moment, those things tend to dissipate. So when you wash, there's a Japanese proverb, when you wash the dishes, wash the dishes. So be present in that moment, think about the dishes, feel the water. This is a great time to do that when we're washing our hands. But observe those feelings as they are coming and going. The next part is just 10 minutes of meditation, prayer, or reflection each day. These methods can help calm just the fight or flight response in our body. Specifically, if you take a nice deep breath in and elongate the exhalation, it expresses a nerve in the body called the vagus nerve, which is directly related to the parasympathetic or rest and digest system in the body. It helps relax us, controls our breathing, our heart rate, helps with digestion. And it also, if you look at this cool functional MRI here, increases the cortical thickness of the prefrontal cortex, frontal lobe, and the hippocampus in the brain. The frontal lobe is where things like emotional regulation, focus, executive functioning, and mood hang out. So if you start feeling yourselves being pulled into anxiety, worry, and stress, taking time to meditate, to breathe, to pray, just to reflect is sometimes enough to just calm that anxiety. I've often encouraged patients to have a designated worry time. So instead of being worried throughout the day, from 7:50 to 8 o'clock p.m., we take 10 minutes, we write out what our concerns are on a notebook, go analog, paper and pencil. It externalizes the concern and helps people feel better. And then you can tell your brain, like, oh, don't need to worry about that. That's future John's problem. It's already written down. 5 minutes of gratitude. Another thing I often have patients do is write out 2 to 5 things every day that you're grateful for. Try to diversify it with time, people, experiences, and try to recognize others in your gratitude. It could be that you were concerned about going to a grocery store and someone reached out. You got to do a puzzle and have a great conversation with your partner or your kids in a way that you haven't before because you didn't have time and we were feeling rushed. But look for ways to include how painful experiences strengthened you or provided you new opportunities. So right now I'm grateful for audiobooks. I'm grateful for a little puzzle thing that my daughter got for her birthday that we got to spend a half an hour for yesterday one-on-one. But try to recognize those things. When you practice gratitude, it changes the way you look at the world. And research shows if you do this for about 5 or 6 days, you'll start to notice the positive things in life and not just start looking for the bad. So it's a nice way to kind of fight that contagion again of anxiety and fear. Now this doesn't add up to 1 hour, but I'm going to add just a one thing. Check in with one other person each day. This can be a grandparent or a colleague or a student that you know that is quarantined, or people who just don't have a large social support. We are social animals. So call people, text, get into writing letters. Or if you're, all else fails, you can try sending a courier pigeon, but reach out to those. There are a lot of vulnerable people who are afraid and who are scared because this is a new experience for everyone. Sometimes just a reach out and, hey, I'm thinking about you, praying for you, or I'm here for you, can really be the difference between night and day for others. But for yourself, the brain is often our biggest adversary as we're dealing with these stressful situations. So I often call it like our bully brain. One of the biggest strategies that we can do to combat stress and anxiety is to name it to tame it. Are you falling victim to the bully brain? Are we predicting the future? Are we mind reading? Are we catastrophizing? Those types of things are often fanned in social media. What is the story that I'm telling myself? Are we telling ourselves it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to get this disease, it's going to be awful, everything's going to end, I'm going to lose my job? And our brain, again, just starts creating this big story and narrative of all the tragedy and horror. Just be mindful of it. Acknowledge today's choice. So there are going to be opportunities for us to wake up in the morning and make a decision on what we want that day to be and what we want it to mean. So for the next 24 hours, I will do, it's pie day today. I will make a pie. I will choose to be kind. I will choose to reach out to someone else. I will choose to abstain from social media today. Those are all choices that we can make and sometimes need to make each day. Practice self-compassion. To thine own self be kind. It is okay to worry. It is okay to feel doom and gloom, but recognize it. Name that beast. Name that fear. Name it to tame it. Recognize it and move on. But be kind to yourself. And let go of expectations. The more we try to control the situation, the more the anxiety is going to creep in. So if our expectations are mild, then we're not going to continually create situations that we are anxious and nervous about. Even with others, people are going to respond to this different ways. You'll see an increase in gallows humor, where people make inappropriate jokes. You might see people become irritable. You might see others want to quarantine, and some people look panicky. Others look like they don't care. Be kind. Be patient with others. It'll help kind of keep the peace. So there's also times where we need to seek additional supports. If you have prolonged feelings of depression and hopelessness for more than 2 weeks, if this coronavirus is kind of a tipping point to where you feel like your life is careening out of control, or you're having trouble to make concentration, or trouble concentrating or making decisions, analysis paralysis, those are real things to go talk to somebody about. If you're having difficulty getting along with others and family, and you feel like you're being more aloof, and people are like, dude, what's going on? It's a good time to reach out. If your fear of the coronavirus has spiraled out of control to where you feel like it's apocalyptic, like it's the end of the world and that it's consuming a large portion of your day, it's good to reach out. If you're having difficulty sleeping, if you're avoiding work and school activities, technically with that one, social distancing kind of gives you a pass, but if you feel like you can't do anything, or if you're having a trouble abstaining from destructive behaviors like drinking, binging on food or drugs, or chronically engaging in social media, these are good times to seek out professional help. You'll notice in the next couple weeks an influx in telehealth, again, to try to avoid exposures of other people, but try to find those mediums that are effective for you. And just remember, this is a virus that is an equal opportunity nuisance. It's going to inconvenience and affect everyone equally, but we're all in this together. And even though stress and fear are contagious, so are kindness, generosity, and compassion. So may the calmer minds prevail over the next few weeks, and I hope that you found one or two things that might be beneficial for you in this. But most of all, I hope you all can be well. Hang in there. We're all in this together.